They say ancient people were primitive. They say they barely understood mathematics, barely understood engineering, barely understood the world around them. But then you look at Puma Punku, and that story falls apart. High in the Bolivian Andes, nearly 13,000 feet above sea level, sits one of the most baffling archaeological sites on Earth. Massive red sandstone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons. Andesite stones carved with razor-sharp precision, perfect right angles, flawless geometric symmetry, clean drill-like holes, and cuts so straight they look machine-made. No steel tools, no electricity, no cranes, no modern measurement systems. Official history tells us Puma Punku was built by the Tiwanaku civilization over 1,000 years ago, but when you stand in front of those stones, you don't see something primitive, you see precision, you see planning, you see engineering, you see something that feels out of place. Some of these blocks are shaped like giant H patterns, carved so precisely that the pieces appear modular, interlocking, standardized, repeatable, almost like parts of a construction kit. Modern engineers who have studied Puma Punku have pointed out something uncomfortable. Reproducing those cuts today with the same materials would require diamond-tipped tools and advanced equipment, and yet these stones were carved over 1,000 years ago at extreme altitude in a region without known advanced metallurgy. How? The andesite used at Puma Punku is incredibly hard, harder than copper tools, harder than bronze, and according to mainstream history, those were the primary tools available at the time. So how do you carve straight internal grooves into one of the hardest stones in the region without hardened steel, without powered saws, without precision drills? Some stones show clean, perfectly cylindrical holes, not rough indentations, not chipped craters, but smooth, controlled cuts, almost as if a mechanical drill passed through. Then there are the angles, 90 degrees, consistent across multiple blocks, parallel lines, flat surfaces that meet with tight tolerances. When researchers place a straight edge against some of these stones, there is barely any deviation, no warping, no uneven surfaces, just smooth, controlled geometry. And remember, these blocks were not carved in a modern workshop, they were transported, lifted, positioned at nearly 13,000 feet above sea level. The thin air alone makes heavy labor exhausting, yet somehow multi-ton stones were moved, aligned, and assembled with accuracy that still impresses structural engineers today. Another mystery? The stones were quarried miles away. Some estimates suggest up to 10 miles for certain materials, without wheels, without draft animals capable of hauling such weights at that altitude, without written engineering manuals. We are told they used manpower, ropes, wooden rollers, inclined planes, but no definitive evidence shows exactly how these techniques were applied to stones of this size and precision. Even more puzzling is the fact that Puma Punku appears unfinished. Scattered blocks lie across the site as if construction stopped suddenly. Why? Earthquake? Conflict? Collapse of leadership? Or something else entirely? The layout suggests deliberate planning. The H blocks appear standardized, as if mass-produced. But mass production implies systems, measurement tools, design schematics, blueprints. Where are they? No written records describe the construction process, no surviving instruction tablets, no diagrams, just stone. Massive, silent stone. Some researchers argue that water erosion on nearby structures suggests the site could be far older than traditionally believed. If that's true, it pushes the timeline back even further, into a period where conventional history insists such precision construction would have been impossible. And that's where the debate begins. Was Puma Punku simply the result of extraordinary human ingenuity? A lost construction technique? Stone softening methods now forgotten? Advanced stone shaping through abrasion and patience? Or does it represent a level of engineering knowledge that we still don't fully understand? Mainstream archaeologists maintain that everything at Puma Punku can be explained through human skill and time, and that may very well be true. But here's the uncomfortable truth. We cannot fully replicate Puma Punku today using the same constraints. Remove electricity, remove steel, remove heavy machinery, remove precision measurement devices. Now try to carve multi-ton andesite blocks with perfectly straight internal grooves in standardized modular shapes at nearly 13,000 feet. It's not impossible, but it's far from simple. And that gap between possible and proven is where the mystery lives. What Puma Punku challenges is not just our understanding of one site. It challenges the narrative that technological progress is always linear, that humanity slowly climbed from primitive to advanced in a straight line. Because Puma Punku feels like a spike, a moment of advanced capability in a world we're told was far more limited. And that raises a bigger question. How much ancient knowledge have we underestimated? How many techniques were passed down orally and then lost? How many skills disappeared when civilizations collapsed, when empires fell, when knowledge was burned, buried, or simply forgotten? We often assume the modern world is the most advanced civilization in history, and in many ways it is. But sites like Puma Punku remind us that advancement is not always obvious. Precision does not always leave behind blueprints. Skill does not always leave behind textbooks. Sometimes it leaves behind stone, stone that still stands, stone that still puzzles, stone that forces modern engineers to pause and admit, we don't fully understand how this was done. Puma Punku does not require aliens, it does not require fantasy, it requires humility. Because when we stand in front of those stones, we are not looking at primitive minds. We are looking at problem solvers, designers, engineers, builders who achieved something that still commands respect. The ancient world was not simple, it was not crude, and perhaps it was not as technologically limited as we once believed. Puma Punku remains one of the greatest construction mysteries on Earth, not because it's impossible, but because it reminds us that history still holds secrets, and sometimes the stones know more than we do.